You're listening to the Primal Happiness Show, a podcast dedicated to helping you thrive in this crazy modern world. Every Tuesday, we explore the nature of how our minds really work, what exactly the human animal requires to thrive, and how we can live happier and more fulfilling lives. If you're new here and haven't yet taken our free class, then there's no better place to get a jump start on reclaiming your primal happiness. It's where we'll guide you step by step through our antidote to today's modern world. Simply head on over to primalhappiness.co/antidote to get the free class and discover how to thrive without having to move to a planet that's not so crazy as ours. But now, your host, Lian Tyler.
Hello, my beautiful people. A huge warm welcome back to the show. In today's crazy modern world, men and women are living shallow, disconnected and unfulfilling lives. So we created the path for those who are ready to reclaim their wildness and actualize their deepest gifts. And the next way to walk that path is by joining Waking the Wild Masculine coming this September. A man's true power is alchemized through the depth of his purpose and the degree to which he has sovereignty over the direction of his life. However, almost all men today lack the guidance, support, and initiation to create that purpose and sovereignty, which is why Jonathan has been called to lead another potent circle of men through a journey of wild masculine reclamation, including a vision quest. Go along to primalhappiness.co/WTWM to discover more about Waking the Wild Masculine, arrange a call with Jonathan, and to claim your space in Sacred Circle. The spaces are intentionally limited to create the most intimate and powerful experience. So if you're feeling the call, don't leave it any longer. Go check out Waking the Wild Masculine now. And over to this week's show. It's with the amazing, magical even, William Whitecloud. I'm so excited to be sharing William with you. William is a best-selling author and a creative development trainer. His famous publications include The Magician's Way, The Last Shaman, and Secrets of Natural Success. Through the pandemic, he made his foundational 5-day training, Create Your Destiny, which he made available for free as a 5-week online course. He is the founder and chairman of Natural Success, which is a training and mentoring provider. He now resides in Santa Monica, California, where he enjoys his time with family, writing, and at the same time developing movies. We spoke about William's study and creation of a system of magic that allows people to powerfully create their reality in alignment with their heart, also known as their highest good. The importance of knowing your heart-based vision and the difference between perception and intuition. And William shared his almost miraculous recovery from a mysterious illness. It's quite a story. Let's dive in. Hello, William. A huge welcome to the show.
Hi, Lian. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my goodness. My pleasure completely. As I was just saying, I am a complete fan of yours. I am so lucky. I often read a book, think, oh, my goodness, it would be so great to get the author on the show. So I have that pleasure often, but I am such a fan of, it turns out, 100% of your books. So I'm so excited to have you here. Really am.
Well, fabulous. Thank you. Really appreciate your, interest in reaching out to me for a chat.
Oh, my goodness. Honestly, I think this is going to be no pressure, but I think this is going to be one of our favorite shows. I know a lot of our listeners really love your work. In fact, a lot of them I know have done your, is it Create Your Destiny course?
Yeah.
So I'm hoping we get into some of the things that perhaps people newer to your work will find useful, but I'd also like to go really deep beyond perhaps what readers of your book perhaps have discovered. But let's see.
Well, hello, listeners. Big hello to anyone who's done the Create Your Destiny or anything else. Good to see you.
Oh, so I want to start at you choose which beginning. I was going to say the very beginning, but you don't have to start right at the day you were born. I was saying to you just before we started recording, I actually have no idea how you got into magic. And so that was the first thing I just wanted to ask you. What took you on this path?
Well, it's a very long story, but but I'll tell you the short version of it, right? Which it may not be as interesting as the long version, but time wouldn't allow because it is a really long story. But I was very ill for a very long period of my life, like very ill, and just went downhill over years to my deathbed, literally. I mean, literally, no exaggeration. And nobody knew. I actually traveled the world trying to, find someone who could tell me what was wrong with me. And they turned me inside out, psychiatric, AIDS test, just you name it, oncologists, everything. But both sort of regular medicine and alternative and, nothing. And, it's very unusual. Like there's always someone who thinks they know what's wrong with you, but no one knew what was wrong with me. And,
So you weren't even getting people saying, oh, it's this, and then treating you for it.
And normally you'll even get, well, it's in your head, I wasn't even getting that, right? It wasn't,
Yeah. What were the symptoms? What kind of things were showing up?
Huh?
What were the symptoms? Like how was that showing up?
Hallucinations, memory loss, tension, headaches, fatigue, sores all over my body, weight loss, Look at me, I'm a pretty chubby looking guy now, hey? I was about a third of this weight by the end, if you can imagine me, 2/3 less weight than this. Awake 2 hours a day, just it was grim, hey? It was really grim. And but anyway. So I met someone one day, and that's why this is like a sort of unfair to the story because I have to just be very brief, because there's a bit more to it really. But in a nutshell, I met someone one day that I was able to be out, and I was out, and I met someone who forced themselves on me in terms of a conversation because I was sick and I just didn't want to talk to anyone of that. And this person forced themselves on me. And, I very quickly got it out of me that I was sick and whatever, and what was wrong with me. And to my, sort of surprise, but also kind of like resentment, they said, I know what's wrong with you, because I'd spent 10 years trying to find out. Now here's this young, healthy, sort of athletic specimen sitting next to me saying he knows what's wrong with me. I said, yeah. But then he proceeded to tell me that he had had what I had and told me everything about it. And in that moment, I knew that he clearly had it because he described exactly to me what I'd been through, what I was going through, just everything. And I just knew this person must have had it. And here he was sitting there, a healthy specimen. And so he said to me, I can give you the cure for this very easily. You'll be better in days, It's like, really? He said, yeah. He said, you must, because I'd eliminated everything from my diet and I was just down to vitamin infusions and boiled cabbage and, some Chinese herbs and whatnot. And he said, look, no, you must throw that all out. And what you must start doing is you must start eating some meat and, animal protein, fish, meat. And you must have a little wine with your meals. And you must have a few coffees every day, and have a cigarette with each coffee. Don't become a smoker. Each coffee. Have a couple of coffees a day. Have a few cigarettes a day. Eat meat and and have some wine with that, white wine, not red wine. He stressed. And it was just like, oh my God, that's the thing. Over the edge and be the nail in my coffin, kill me. I just what the hell, and I followed his prescription. I just went, what the hell, and I started doing that, and I immediately became well. I mean, my energy returned within days, and my faculties, my memory and my energy and all that. It took me months to put the weight back on and the sores on my body to heal and that sort of thing. But basically, my life functions just came back in days. And I continued that thing. And you see, the thing that occurred to me was, it was a miraculous thing. I mean, you listening to it can go, oh, maybe you even go, wow, that's interesting or something, or that's crazy. But you're not me. And for me, that was miraculous. That was like profound beyond measure, because I was going to die. And I'd been so sick and everything. And to have that recovery and in that manner, with that from that prescription, was just beyond astounding and brilliant and amazing. But the thing about it was that I never ever assumed that there was any efficacy in the substances, the properties that he proposed, in the alcohol or the cigarettes or the caffeine or the nicotine or the, what hit me, what occurred to me was, there must be some way in which I focused that affected, my reality, my experience, and whatever, right? Because I had been really focused on not being ill and not dying, and especially in the end. It was like horrible. I was depressed and terrified, and I did not want to die. And I was, doing everything that everybody said. And, like I told you, I'd eliminated everything. I was living on boiled cabbage and, filtered water and mineral, vitamin infusions and so forth. And I was, just doing everything, everyone, doing everything I could not to die and not to be sick. And then this person came along and said, and gave me this outrageous prescription. And I just went, what the hell, forget about, because this is certainly going to kill me, right? But he looks healthy, so it's going to kill me, but it worked for him.
And at least it's enjoyable. What a way to go.
Yeah, exactly. I'd go out there with a cigarette, no blindfold, cigarette, coffee, wine, and so, I just went, what the hell? And it just occurred to me that, I mean, I may be wrong even to this day. Maybe I came to the wrong conclusion. I don't know, but it served me very well, whether I was right or wrong. Because I just went, it's something in the way I focus that does it. It's my focus. And so, but I didn't know anything, because I grew up in Africa, in the bush, in the wilds. I didn't know there was Deepak Chopra. I didn't know, whatever, right? I didn't know about est and all those things of the day. If we had a problem, we just had a drink, I mean, punched somebody and had a drink, and that was it. And I didn't know anything, so I hadn't read anything. I wasn't aware of anything. But I was now it dawned on me that my focus somehow creates my reality, And so, I just went, you know what? I'm going to find out how this works, because it was very successful in destroying me. And I would like to find out how it can work in making me instead of destroying, and creating a brilliant life for me. Because the first half of my life, and I don't want to make you cry and be a victim and all that, it's just true. My first half of my life absolutely sucked, and especially the last 10 years of that first half, well, they were terrible years. They were horrendous. And I just went, I want the exact opposite of that. And so I want to know how this works, because I knew there's something about it, but I didn't know how it works. So then I made the intention. I went, I'm going to find out how it worked. And I did. I very quickly found out, because I started talking to people, and they were, they were going like, oh, you mean your focus creates your reality? And I went, yeah. That's what I'm trying to say. Yes, my focus creates my reality. Thank you for the language. Well, how did you know that you're? Oh, well, that's what's being taught nowadays. There's workshops and all that, So then, I got into it and made a study of it. But I mean, my study has been very intense, because I don't know, it just like became a life calling for me, a life purpose. An obsession, really, to really find out, how it works. And after some years, I clicked, because I was led to different readings and learnings and teachings and all that, right? And, one of the things I read a lot about was alchemy and magic and whatever. And, I just realized, oh, you know what? This is alchemy. This is alchemy. Actually, all of this really, whatever language anyone's using, is actually just alchemy. And so then I went, oh, okay, so this is alchemy. It comes from thousands of years ago. It's thousands of practice. It's a pure practice. So I want to understand, the pure practice. And to be honest, I've been on this journey for 28 years now. And it took me I won't say 25 years, but close to 25 years to work out the actual, put the system together to separate what didn't belong to it, the sort of misconceptions and, the real, the real package. It took me nearly 25 years to put together and really put all the pieces together. And so that's been that was the origins, and that was my start, and that's where I am. And that sort of search and that journey informs the books that I've written. And I won't say I knew everything when I wrote The Magician's Way and The Last Shaman, right? But once I really had the whole composite model together and really understood it from every kind of angle. Don't profess to know everything, but I'm satisfied I have a solid, working model and understanding of it. And then I wrote, the Secrets of Natural Success as kind of a manual, really.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. That is, it sounds like a miracle to me. So that is absolutely amazing.
Miracle.
So that was 28 years ago.
28 years ago, yeah.
Goodness.
I always go it's 20 years ago, but it's not. But recently I updated it, I went, oh, no, actually it's 28 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, how you said you saw quite quickly it was about your focus, even though you may not have had the language for your focus creates your reality. You had a sense this is something to do with focus. How quickly did you realize that after you'd had that conversation with the chap?
I don't know. That's a really good question. And no one's ever asked me that for years. So I can't remember really. But, I mean, most probably within, weeks, a month or something, right? Not in the first days. But as I went back, sort of got back into life and that, and I think especially when I started talking to people, right, about it, because they're going, wow, how's that possible? Those are toxic. They're questioning the substance, and even other people had all sorts of explanations like, oh, well, that makes sense because what had happened to you, you'd become very alkaline. And what he proposed was rebalancing really with
more acidic and
more acidic. And so the balance was corrected. I don't know, maybe that's true. But with all those conversations, I just went, nah, that doesn't feel right. Like what you're saying, yeah. And what you're asking me, it's just I don't think it was, because there was this big thing about it makes no sense that those properties cured you. It makes or does make sense. Some people going, yeah, that makes sense, and and I'm going, nah, it wasn't I'm just had this feeling that feel like innate, just knowing that wasn't. That's like a red herring,
Yeah, completely.
But it was a big deal. I mean, I was living with a woman, right, at that time, and as soon as I got better, she kicked me out. I was living with her. She kicked me out. She felt
my goodness.
She felt so betrayed by me. I don't know. She thought she'd been had. That she was looking after this invalid. On his deathbed, and like holding me in a dying man in her arms. And then I just suddenly got out of bed and started walking around. And I was like this massive hoax, this like trick, And she's like, no, you got to go. You got to, you think,
wow.
What? I thought this has been a bit.
You never can tell. My goodness. Wow. So I'm guessing, certainly going back to what you were saying in terms of your upbringing in Africa, and it's kind of the solution to everything was like, go have a drink. I'm guessing the prescription wasn't dissimilar to your lifestyle prior to getting ill. Does that make sense? As in, you probably were, before you got ill, you probably were drinking wine and eating meat and smoking.
I used to smoke and I used to drink. I used to eat meat and have coffee and all that. That was, true.
So what was the shift in focus that created the illness?
And I still do all of that, except that I don't smoke anymore, but wine and coffee and, meat and stuff I do, not a lot. But, sorry, what was that?
So from the place where, so whilst you were eating, drinking that way, there was a shift in your focus that then created the illness, I guess is your hypothesis. What was that shift in focus?
Well, no, I mean, the shift in the focus was actually, it started with me getting well, like I got like a flu-like symptom, which I just wanted to shake. And, refused to, looking back, I just refused to allow myself to have the flu or whatever it was, and just, just determined I'm not going to be sick. And I went, I did what I always did. If I ever like got the flu or cold or something, I went for a jog, and I just sweated it out. And, I did that. And this time it just kind of persisted. So I got, I just got more and more insistent about getting over it, and the more I did that, then the sicker I got, and then the sicker I got, right? So, but you see,
your focus was not being ill.
Yeah, totally. From the beginning, it was like to refuse to be ill,
But the focus is on illness rather than wellness.
Yeah, exactly. It was a negative vision. It's not what I wanted. What I wanted to get, what I wouldn't allow, what I didn't want to have. And I mean, I don't know about all that, like whether I was justified in coming to those conclusions, but it did bring me to this work, which is based on how you focus. And how we know through a lot of evidence, which I would call scientific, because I mean, science is like the observation, and the testing and the observation of whatever, right? And so I've got, 28 years of testing, observation of my own life, working with other people, and now my clients are, in, coaching them in being able to understand where their focus is and redirecting it in a way where they're focused in a way that's going to create what they want, and not remain stuck on actually what they resist. Because the big secret here is, you see, is not really that your focus creates your reality. That is, that's important, but it's the shallowest level of that premise, right? Focus creates your reality, because then people think, well, if I just have a vision board and I just have some choices and I affirmations, and I affirm that this is what I want, and I see this is what I want and whatever, then I'll have it because I'm focused on that. But it's not true. You usually mostly don't know what you're focused on. What you think you're focused. Well, let me put it this way: what you think you're focused on isn't what you focused on, right?
Mm.
They're competing focuses in your consciousness, and your self-conscious awareness is only the tip of the iceberg of your awareness, right? So, as people choose things, and especially things that matter to them in life, then at deeper levels of their consciousness, the levels that are there to sort of protect them, in what they go about. And those levels have different focuses, pay attention to different things, you see. And so when you initiate a self-conscious focus towards something that you want to create, unbeknownst to the average person, they're initiating unconscious focus on things that they don't want and don't want to happen, and conditions that they want to ensure don't happen. And that silently, secretly takes over in their consciousness, and we'll actually be getting more attention than the self-conscious focus, right? So the skill is, the real skill is awareness, is self-awareness, is to know what's going on in your consciousness totally, and where the power is, and reassign the power to where it's best to have the power that will lead, to you actually creating what you want, and more easily and more effortlessly. Because our premise is also that, you see, the part of us that creates our reality, like what created me being sick and what created me being well, what did that? It's like, if it's me, what did it? My eyeballs didn't do it. My teeth didn't do it. My ears didn't do it. My hair did. My hair certainly didn't help at all.
It took a mouthful of tea then.
My hair had no help in that matter. So what part of it? We assume, that the subconscious, the feminine aspect of consciousness creates, you see, and it creates by virtue of the messages it gets, right? And it just creates whatever messages it gets. It's just totally neutral. It's like a womb, or it's like soil. If a seed gets dropped in soil, it doesn't go, oh, that's not going to be good for us. That's the owner of this property is not going to like that growing here. Better not let it grow. It's just going to grow, right? And I don't know if it's a very good analogy, but like, because it involves gender, in a way it is, is the womb, right? Is that impregnated? It's impregnated, and then a life form grows, you see, and whatever it gets impregnated with is what it's going to. It's not discerning. It's not going like, wow, this sperm's going to create a blue-eyed child. It's not a blue-eyed child. I don't want that. It gets impregnated. It grows, right? And the subconscious is like that. It gets impregnated with a message, and it manifests to that message, that conclusion. But really, what it's looking for is, where's the power? Like it's because there's a whole lot going on in your consciousness, and the real message it's getting is, where's the power? So then it goes, oh, that's got the power. You see, that's got the power. So like you see, so if someone makes affirmations and they stand in front of the mirror and they go, I'm beautiful, I'm beautiful, I'm beautiful, and the subconscious is hearing that, don't think that's the message it's getting. I'm beautiful, I'm beautiful. It's sussing out the whole consciousness and going, I know where that's coming from. It's coming from a deeper lack of sense of unself-loving, a sense of lack of, beauty or whatever, right? It goes, right. So we're, like we're not feeling attractive here. It gets stupid, right? It's not just like a stupid surface thing. The subconscious going, oh, okay, right. You say we're beautiful. We're beautiful. No, well, how come we feel so shit underneath here, right? And it's like, it's getting from there, right? So So you see, it's figuring out where the power is, and then creating that assumption, that message, right? And so then our job as creators, as conscious creators, is to figure out what truly matters to us. That's not a negative vision. That's not getting away from something we don't want. Like I had a negative vision in that I was dying, right? So even as I chose to be better, you go, well, William's choosing health and all that. Why doesn't he get better? No, because I was choosing to get away from bad health, and the focus was on that bad health. And there's more to it, which I now understand. It's related to all sorts of things, like my own sense of powerlessness and not being good enough and inadequacies, and that they all came into play, and that was all getting the power. So then that was just reflected, So the first thing that we ensure through our self-awareness, empowered self-awareness, is that what we're going for in life is something for its own sake, that we love, really, you could call it, that really matters to us, that we really care about. Not something to get away from something else, or not something that if we get that, it'll give us that. No, it's a direct choice, you see. And then, even then, when you have your true directions, your love-driven directions, as I call them, you see, your ego wants to help you, so it's still going to come in and look out for conditions and whatever that mustn't exist and that you must avoid, and it starts giving the power to other things other than what you want. And so then you also, as you go along, you got to have the ability to have that awareness of where your ego is going, and just bring it back on track and sort of unhook yourself from that, and keep your energy focused on your true end result, because they're competing end results in your consciousness, and you have to be aware of that and just keep bringing it back. Someone told me, a very powerful teacher once said to me, that mastery isn't the ability to focus, it's the ability to refocus. You see, that's exactly what I'm saying now.
Yeah.
You have an end result. You don't just plain sail towards it, because your ego constantly gets preoccupied and wants to take your attention to the conditions and that it sees, that exist, that shouldn't exist, and whatever, right? It's fears and preoccupations. It wants you to pay attention to that as you go towards this. And so your job, that's inevitable. That's just gonna, it's just gonna happen automatically. And your job, as you go along, to functionally just keep yourself on track, right? By being aware and keeping your energy in the true end result. And that's the art of creating there.
Yeah.
In a few minutes, but
no, that was wonderful.
It's a training in developing that,
I think that's really wonderful what you've just said about the refocusing. I found I guess you could say it's a metaphor that was just woven into the Magician's Way about the swing cycle. I'm not in any way a golf fan, but that was such a powerful metaphor. And even now, when I notice my focus kind of go off what I'm wanting to focus on, that's such a visual, embodied metaphor that I can kind of recognize. I've kind of over here in the swing cycle, now bring it back to the target. And I completely agree with you. It's like the focusing part kind of is easy. It's the noticing that you're not focusing and then bring it back. Absolutely. I want to ask you a question actually about something you were just touching on about the I think you called it love-based vision. Was that how you described it?
Yeah, that'll do.
Yeah. Okay. What I've noticed over the years of working with people in a not dissimilar way to the way that you work with people, and also studying various forms of magic, is that the older forms of magic they may not use those words, but they have that understanding of the importance of having that heart, that love focus, that vision from heart. There's like built in that the work includes forms of, whether it's called shadow work or ways of understanding what's in your subconscious, it's built into that tradition. So you're naturally getting to a place where that vision that you end up with is from your heart. Whereas more, I'd say, simpler, more modern forms of magic, say, for example, chaos magic, is more about the understanding of like, this is how to do magic, but with no understanding that you're then potentially creating things you just wouldn't want to create, because they aren't necessarily going to be visions from your heart. So I get the impression over the years that's become clearer and clearer to you, hence your teachings have gone more and more in that direction. But what I was wondering is how, when you are teaching people all the different ways you do, that's obviously, you've got your books, your courses, just what you're putting out on social media. How conscious are you of that need for people to ultimately come back? Because that's not easy. You know, that can take a long time to uncover that heart based vision. So how much is that in your awareness when you're teaching magic as that being really important? Was that question quite clear? I kind of waffled on a bit, but let me know if it wasn't.
I think I know what you're getting at. I'm sure I know what you're getting at. And you see, I just want to clarify what I mean when I talk about the heart, you know, because I think there's a real misconception about the terminology of the heart. And when I explain what I mean by the heart, they go, that's what the heart is, right? Because you see, it's an ancient Greek thing, you know. All of this, I don't know if it's where it comes from, but our lineage is descended from Greece, you know. Plato, near Platonic philosophy and whatever, right? But he wasn't. He even came from before him, right? So he just refined it, maybe. But you see, with ancient Greece, they had the mind and the heart. But what they meant by the mind and the heart was the mind stood for the rational brain, the rational mind, you see, and what they meant by the heart was the subconscious mind. They're still referring to the mind, but they're referring to masculine and feminine aspects of mind. So the heart represents the feminine, you know, subconscious, superconscious aspects of mind, and when they talked about the mind, they're still talking about the mind, obviously. Yeah. They just mean the rational, structural, unconscious belief systems, rational, all of that, right? Egoic sort of thing. So when we talk about the heart, we're talking about the side of ourselves that is outside of, you know, our identity and our belief. It's more like our true, authentic nature, you know, and so that's most people. I'll be very honest with you, because I've got a lot of experience in this. If you just take an untrained person and go, okay, you know what, I'm gonna teach you how to have whatever you love. Make a list of 10 things, the most important things that you love. And I'm going to help you get those. And you get them, and they write down that list. They're not going to their heart. They're going straight to their ego to get everything they believe they need to have to be actually secure in life, to compensate for whatever inadequacies, inferiorities, unsafeties, anything that they have, you know.
Yes.
Right? They're just going to make a list of that, right? And that's not really what they want, you know. So we've got to go to the heart to get that. And yeah, I mean, it's very important. And there's only one way you can do that, you see, is through intuition. You see, because you've got two modes of awareness. You got perception, which is like more or less right now we're operating out of perception, you know, self-conscious thoughts and feelings. It's our de facto mode. but it's actually the mode of awareness of your ego. Perception is the mode of awareness of your ego, and it's communicated through thoughts and feelings, right? And your superconscious, your heart, basically, right? You got this genius, superconscious, authentic, creative spirit connected to everything through time and space that you really are. And it has another mode of awareness, and it's called intuition. That is the mode of awareness of your superconscious. Perception is the mode of awareness of your ego. And when you know anything through perception, you just know your ego. And so to really arrive at what you want truly, you've got to switch modes of awareness. And you've got a superconscious mode of awareness where you are going to be informed by that authentic, true side of yourself, the power, the empowered, genius side of yourself that isn't concerned with making up for your inadequacies, for your incompleteness, because that's what your ego is. Your ego is just a collection of ideas of how incomplete you are and what you have to be and become and the conditions and all that will serve you completing yourself. But you're already complete, So when you go to the complete side of yourself, it's got very different agendas. It's got true agendas, and those agendas are true focus, a pure focus, right? And they will lead unopposed, more unopposed. People talk about flow. Well, there's only one place flow can come from, and that's that side of yourself. Flow can only come from like true orientation in life. And so you got to have an intuitive ability to communicate with that side of yourself and draw on that side of yourself and formulate insight, knowledge, wisdom, direction, choice, whatever. So intuition's the big key. And so people who have done my Create Your Destiny course that are listening to us now, they know what I'm talking about, because the Create Your Destiny course taught them about establishing structures of consciousness, which just means focusing in that manner that's going to compel, end results of your choice. But they also know that it's based that only really works if they're true end results, and they also learned intuition to facilitate that ability, of getting in touch with true choices. So intuition, it's not. I don't think it's at all anywhere near as challenging of taking on another language, right? Learning another language. But something like that, it's a different learning, a different mode of awareness, and it's an education process that you've got to be prepared to take a bit of time out to develop, right? It's just like, look, if you want to get healthy, and after being in lockdown and all that, and you've got a sort of lockdown body now and all that, and you want to, and you have.
Who are you telling you got a lockdown body?
I'm not saying you. I'm saying you.
I hope it's me sitting in front of you.
For a lot of us at the moment.
I was so nice to you at the beginning.
Don't take this personally. Furthest from my mind in this analogy.
Sorry, carry on.
I was thinking of me. So we, if we want to do that, we better do what it takes. We better do some exercise and hit the gym and get serious about our diet. I think it would actually, for me now, to get back to my pre-pandemic shape, would actually take more work, which I want to, and I'm going to do it, and would take more work to develop my intuition than I would take. But it is something you got to do, and if you go, oh no, I'm not interested in that, and that sounds woo and that, well, too bad then, because then you're going to go to the grave never having come close to your genius, to your power and that. So, So, right, you don't want to discover anything about yourself. You don't want to grow in any way. You don't want to realize anything, superior about yourself, really. You're just happy, safely being little old you. But if you really want to become a powerful creator and create on extraordinary levels above anywhere you've ever created before, then what we're talking about now, you want to get with it. I'll give you an example, right? Because I told you we're talking about the European tradition lineage before, which I'm interested in. We talk about the Renaissance, this period in history where there was a revolution in creativity and art and music and technology, and just, really led to the initial advances that we enjoy now, in our society. And, I learned about the Renaissance, and I read about it, and this person from the Renaissance. And I don't know about you, but I know there are other people that share this with me. You go, well, that Renaissance thing, everybody in Europe was involved in it. It was just the whole of Europe, it was like a big party, and everyone got in it, and everyone's consciousness just suddenly went to a whole new level. And there was it was like this sort of spring of consciousness in Europe and that. And then someone pointed out to me, 1,000 people participated in the Renaissance, in the European Renaissance. 1,000. All of that you read about, and it came out of it, and all that magic and technology and art and consciousness and, creative realization, everything. It was 1,000 people. 1,000. They were the people in Europe that were educated back then in that century.
Yeah.
And there was 1,000 of them. There was 1,000 of them. And the basis of their education was Neoplatonic philosophy. The basis of education in the West, till the Industrial Revolution, you got educated, you learned reading, writing, arithmetic, whatever, but essentially you got your education was in Neoplatonic philosophy. And what's Neoplatonic philosophy? Alchemy. What we're talking about now.
Wow.
So where did the great minds of history come from? That history, alchemy. What we're talking about now, So, there it is. And if you look at the great minds, like of our time, possibly, any time, but when you look, you go, someone like amazing, like C.S. Lewis, someone like William Blake, or just anybody, right? You just go, wow. And you look into them, you realize they were trained in alchemy.
It's amazing, isn't it? Since I started getting into magic, the amount of those, famous great thinkers of the world that were also into a form of magic, it's incredible, like way higher than I would have ever expected. Yeah, it's incredible. So what do you see typically? So I was thinking the first answer to my question is, so I was going to ask you, what do you see gets in the way of people hearing, understanding their intuition? I was like, actually, the first thing is like, it's just so underrated, misunderstood in our culture, full stop. So it's like, whole rafts of people aren't even really aware it's a thing they might want to take notice of. Let's assume they've kind of now recognizing, they're hearing something along the lines of what you've just been talking about, and they're like, oh, hey, hang on, understanding my intuition could be helpful. What do you then see shows up as blockages to that? What gets in the way of people being able to learn that language?
Well, look, I'll explain perception and intuition, and that'll explain everything, right? The thing that what people don't understand is, even when they go, yeah, okay, well, intuition would be a good thing to learn, right? Yeah, okay. it would be a good thing. And I've known, like, because I'm friends with a lot of teachers and, people that are the heads of very big modalities in the world and all that. And the funny thing about them is they all advocate the imagination and intuition and all that, but they actually don't have tools to teach it. But they just tell the students, you got to get jiggy with your intuition and imagination, and it's all in them. And people go, oh, well, right, okay. But well, like, how do we do that? Because you see, what people continue to think is intuition is, I know what you're talking about, William. The other day I had a feeling my auntie was going to call me, and she did. How's that? As if
miracle.
I knew my auntie was. It's like these gut feelings, these random visitations of an awareness. I knew that was going to happen. I knew I shouldn't. I didn't have a good feeling about that guy. You see, it's these random things. It's like as though intuition's a rare bird that like visits us at its pleasure. And like, whoa, there's that bird again. Oh, the bird was at the window again this morning, right? It's actually a language. It's a constant. Your intuition is constantly there. It's a stream of communication of what's in your highest good to know. That's what intuition is. It's a constant stream of intuition that is in every moment what is in your highest good to know, right? That's what intuition is.
Oh, I love that. Mm-hmm.
It's there all the time, right? It's there all the time, right? So why aren't we there? Why don't we connect with it? Because we're thinking and we're identifying with that, you see, because our thoughts and feelings are our belief system communicating to us. It's a projection. Thoughts and feelings are a projection of our beliefs onto the universe, the world that we're experiencing at any given time. And we're caught up in that projection, right? Why are we caught up in that projection? Because our ego is partly a device that seeks orientation. It's a part of us that's kind of like our navigator. It wants to know how is it here? And how do we operate here? So it's looking for orientation. So it wants to know and understand its position at all times. So in every moment, you don't know it, but your ego is going, how is it here? It's trying to understand its position. It's trying to understand its position, you see. And so in every moment, if I stop talking, so my ego sort of figured out what's happening here between you and I now. It's not what is happening, but according to my ego, it's figured out what's happening. It's pretty happy now because it's got it figured out, I'm a guy, you're a woman, there's banjos and stuff on your wall, and there's a painting, it's comfortable. It might not be happy with what's happening.
Don't let it know, but it's not a banjo. I don't want to upset it.
There's violins, wires, guitars, I know. I'm just being economical, right? I was trying to move things along.
Sorry, carry on.
Okay. So, but you see, my ego's figured it out now, what's going on here. It might not like it, but it's comfortable because it knows, what's going on here. But if we finish this interview, I go into a next phase, or I go into something else. I'm in a new situation. I'm not talking to you. I'm here in the room alone. And my ego is going to start all over again. What's going on? What's happening? and you see, by that need to work it out, need to understand, need to know, is a direct hotline to our belief systems. What's going on? Pushes up thoughts and feelings. This is what's going on. And that's at the forefront of our attention, you see. And that was how it'll always be, as long as we need to know how it is, need to figure it out and all that. So I teach intuition very successfully. And intuition begins with innocence, which is in no sense. It's a state outside of our senses, right? And it's a state outside of thoughts and feelings that comes from innocence, which is a state of presence, of not needing to understand, not needing to know. You see, it's a void. And to be an intuition, you need to be able to enter your mind into a void-like state, which isn't a permanent state, but it's a starting point that neutralizes your perception. It neutralizes perception and begins another mode of awareness that begins, occurring to you, which is your intuition, which is outside of what you know egoically, right? And now other information begins occurring to you. And then, you actually have to be trained to apprehend that. Because if you're not trained, you won't even know how to apprehend it. You will dismiss it because that's what the mind will do very quickly. It's a censoring, it censors and it edits out what doesn't make sense to it, right? And, one of the biggest creative principles you're ever going to come across, which is even there's songs written about it, by creators like Talking Heads, stop making sense. Stop making sense. You've got to divorce yourself from a making sense orientation to just an open receiving what you receive, acknowledging what you receive, observing that, unpacking it. I can't teach it all now, unfortunately. It takes a couple of days of teaching and practicing, but then you enter into that mode of awareness. And as long as you practice that structure, you can hold yourself permanently in intuition as long as you need to. And intuition will never be a random experience ever again. It's an on-demand experience when you master that,
Oh, I love what you just said. You just called to mind, I'm training in shamanism at the moment, and we did an exercise a couple of months ago. And directly after, I'm going to say something about the exercise, but directly after we did it, the man that I was partnered with said, I did a William Whitecloud course a year or so ago. He said, what we've just done has really reminded me of that. He didn't know that I knew of you. He just said it. So, and what you just said has just reminded me of that. So I can now see why he said it. We were doing an exercise where we were blindfold and then getting taken to 3 different trees, and through intuition alone, describing the tree, which obviously we hadn't seen at all. There are many different kinds of trees. And each time, what I was able, it was kind of coming through in a mixture of sort of visions and just experiences. And they were so accurate, it was shocking me. Every time I then saw the tree, I was like, oh my goodness, like, how did that happen? But it was because I had no perception, because I was blindfold and there was no way I couldn't touch the tree or anything like that. All I had was the intuition. So it's such a great example of, like, when everything else is gone, what you're left with is uncannily accurate. The interesting thing was, the very last tree he took me to, I was describing it, and then I suddenly saw an image of hazelnuts, which was a completely different kind of tree to the one I've been describing. And I went, I think I've been describing an oak. And then I suddenly saw a hazelnut, and I was like, that doesn't make sense. They look very, very different, but I've just seen a hazelnut. And so I had to then make a choice. Which one do I go for? I've been describing an oak. I've now seen a hazelnut. And that's such a good example of where my perception came in and was like, okay, it can't be both. I need to choose between the 2 of them. I'm going to disregard everything I've already experienced, and I'm going to say it's a hazelnut tree. And then took my blindfold off, and it turned out to be an oak tree with a hazelnut tree immediately behind it. And I was just like, oh my goodness. So I actually had it all. If I hadn't got in there and started to try and make sense of it, it would have actually been like amazing, like, look at me, I can actually do 2 trees at once. But no, that need to know got in there and then kind of interfered with it.
The need to know and the need to make sense. The need to know and the need to make sense. And it's very powerful, because in childhood you get punished for not making sense.
Yes, yeah.
And you might not think of it, you go, oh no, and I'm not a bleeding heart, hey? I think you can tell that, right? I'm not a bleeding heart. But you see, oh no, well, what do you mean children get punished for not making sense? They do. They get ridiculed, they get dismissed, they get also, because they're very small, they're very little people, all of that, and they're dealing with big people whose validation they desperately need, and all of that, right? So as I say, they get punished for not. As a child, you get punished for not making sense. And not knowing and not making sense. I mean, you hear it. I mean, it's just like, you're just making that up, and don't be silly. And all these is just, just that you throw around, and adults throw around, and I don't think there's any harm in it. But to a child, they're being punished for not, making sense. And so, one of the things that I remind people of, or actually even teach them, introduce them to the fact, is that when you're from 0 to 5 years old, your brain is on the same frequency as someone under hypnosis. So it's like you're under hypnotic suggestion. And so what hits you, what hits your brain in that period is very impactful. You're very sensitive in that way, making a very profound impact on you. It's obviously designed for learning, because now we're not so much like the animals, and we've got more of a buffer around us of safety. But if you look at animals, they've got to imprint very quickly. I mean, from the day they're born, they've got to work. They can't over time, go, I'm getting the sense that leopards don't like us, they can't figure that out in work. Leopards don't like us. They got to, everything's got to, it's imprinted. It's this imprinting, which is why it's great. You can, like, how easy it is to train, which I'm doing now. I did before. I had a dog who's grown up now, but she was a puppy, and we trained her when she was a puppy, and boy, was it easy. And now we've got kittens, and they learn so quick. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. You can a new dog, though, a baby dog, and it's the same. We've still got that function. Most probably don't need it, like we don't need tails anymore, but it's still there. That the functions are imprinted. So we're very sensitive, and so we get very conditioned. It's like, it's to not make sense is bad, but it's actually a highly creative condition. And then the challenge is the vulnerability and ability to lean into that tension and that discomfort,
Yeah. Be willing not to make sense.
Yeah.
No, I really get that. So unfortunately, this has just flown by, and I've got a million things I want to ask you. I might have to beg you to come back another time, actually, because there's so much I want to ask you about everything you've just said. So before we close, and I do really feel like we just scratched the surface, honestly. I'm just like, where's this gone? What would you say to listeners that are hearing what you've been talking about in terms of focus and intuition? What would you suggest as those kind of like first breadcrumbs in this direction, first next steps they could take? What's that look for?
Asking me, I would suggest, if you haven't read my books, read my books, and that they will be very informative on the topic that we're talking about now. And if that interests you, that speaks to you, then obviously you can investigate it further with whoever you find to do it with. But I've got programs that are very powerful education and everything we've been talking about, and also we've got this. I made my when the pandemic hit, I just went. I really felt intuitively like this. I should be able to do something for everybody who now is very disorientated by this all, and what can I do? And as it happened, I just made an online course, and we made it available in such a structure that it's the Create Your Destiny that you talked about, Lian. And it's normally a 5-day live event, but we turned it into a 5-week online course supported by trainers and, video tutorials, very, very comprehensive. It's a training in this. So I made that available free, and we developed the structures on how to, over the course of the lockdowns, we really developed a sophisticated platform for delivering that, and have been giving it free. And in a year, it was we took 12,000 people through it for free, and was just so successful that, like, I just got this inspiration. I went, you know what? I make enough money from other things. I'm on a mission to bring that course to 1 million people for free, and so that's what we're doing, and it's free. So if you want to check that out, it's highly worth. There's no risk in that, right? You can sign up for that, and when it's on, and participate in that. There's the books, and if they tickle your fancy, there's the Create Your Destiny online course that we're now running, for free. And we're going to do it till we hit 1 million people, and we're at 12,000 now, so there's still time to get in. That's what I would recommend.
I haven't done your courses yet. I definitely will, but I can certainly recommend your books. And I know several people who have done your courses and rave about them. So yeah, I would very much recommend listeners do check all that out. Well, I am definitely going to be asking you to come back, but for the moment, thank you so much for that, William. It's been just such a pleasure to hear from you personally, all the wonderful things I've read you talk about. Yeah, it's brought a whole nother, just brought it all to life. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. It was delightful talking to you too. And please be assured that when I raised the thing of the pandemic body, the lockdown body, I wasn't, I wasn't looking at you. Well, I was looking at you.
And now you're going to have to make that up to me. Thank you. Oh my goodness, what a show. Here are my takeaways. William's amazing story of being incredibly ill and then miraculously recovering is such a powerful example of how our focus really does create our reality. If focus created him being so close to death to being in great health, what can you create with it? As William said, so much of our focus is actually happening below our conscious awareness. What's held in our subconscious is a real mastermind and requires awareness to understand what's going on in there. Understanding how our intuition is constantly speaking to us and being able to be innocent in no sense is the way to be able to hear it and act on it, rather than always needing to know and make sense of the world. If you'd like to get notes and links for everything we spoke about this week, hop on over to the show notes, and they're at primalhappiness.co/episode 330. And as I said earlier, if you're a man and feeling the call to awaken the wild masculine, then do go along to primalhappiness.co/WTWM to find out more and claim your space now. If you don't want to miss out on next week's episode, head on over to Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher, or your Android or iOS of choice and hit that subscribe button. That way you'll get each episode delivered straight to your device as soon as it comes out. And if you haven't already, I would love it if you would take a couple of minutes to leave us a rating and review. So appreciated. Apart from the fact it just delights my heart to read them, also helps other people get to hear about the show and find out if it's for them. Thank you so much if you've already left us a rating review. So appreciate you. Thank you. And thank you so much for listening. You've been wonderful. Catch you again next Tuesday.